So I guess we're a little late to it, but
A little bit. It's all right though. People are still talking about it.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So, Bobby, what was the movie about?
What was it about? It was about grief. It was a 3-hour movie about the death of Chadwick Boseman.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, I didn't hate the movie. I didn't love it. It was okay. It had good things about it. It had a lot of not good things about it. But the filmmakers were put in a difficult position with the death of Chadwick Boseman because they had to choose, do we recast this character or do we just spend the whole movie honoring his legacy and passing the mantle to someone else?
I don't think they made the right choice personally.
I don't either. I would have rather seen them recast the character.
Yeah, I sympathize for what Marvel was going through.
Yes.
It's a shit situation to be in.
Yes, both choices suck, but if you consider the franchise as a whole going forward, just recasting and moving on and then continuing to tell the story that you had planned to tell in the second film and then subsequent films, the whole franchise probably would have been better off for it.
Yeah.
But now we have this film that kind of just feels like, here's this filler film, as you put it before, where it's just about now the death of T'Challa. So that is front and center the entire film, and his absence in this film is greatly felt. It feels like you're just watching a film of side characters who are trying to carry the scenes, and some do it better than others. So you've got his mother, Angela Bassett, you've got his sister, Shuri, his girlfriend who pops up halfway through the film that I completely forgot was there. All these characters come together to try and fill the void.
Right, they're trying to salvage
Right.
Black Panther, but it doesn't exactly work. I think what they need to realize is all of these characters are bigger than the actor that plays them. And I know that no one playing Batman has died, but they've recast Batman many times.
Yes, they just move on.
You can do that. And was the studio sort of worried about sort of like the bad taste that can potentially come with casting a character from an actor that just passed away? Yeah, again, it's a bad situation to be in.
Right, but how you approach it matters.
How you approach it matters. So, it could have been like they cast someone else and then you do the whole, I'm thankful to have the opportunity tour on social media. With Chadwick's passing, these are very big shoes to fill. He did a great job. I hope I can take up the mantle at least halfway.
They didn't do that.
Yeah, they didn't do that. And it suffers greatly because of that.
Yeah.
There's enough what could have happened.
The shoulda, woulda, couldas.
Yes, but
they don't matter.
We got Wakanda Forever. And
right. So, movie starts, he's dying.
Of COVID.
He succumbs to COVID. It's very sad. And then we've got a lot of mourning going on. And then we jump into the ocean where countries are trying to find vibranium because Wakanda won't give anybody vibranium.
Yeah, Wakanda won't share.
After they've said in the past that
they said they were going
to share some vibranium with the world.
They weren't going to be as isolationist, and they were going to start sharing some of their resources.
They went back on their word, whatever. Yeah. While these countries are searching for vibranium, they find some in the ocean, but then they all get killed by some underwater people. Turns out it's Namor. He then tries to form some kind of alliance with Wakanda, thinking that they have a shared interest, that they don't want the people on the surface to find out about them, and that they should team up, and they should kill the scientist who created the machine that found the vibranium on the ocean floor, because only one person could know how to do this. And that's what the whole movie ends up being about in terms of the action plot. All the while you have these characters grieving over the death of T'Challa.
The movie's like one long therapy session.
It's one long therapy session with his sister, with his mother, all these characters who knew him and loved him, and now you feel his absence.
The girlfriend who we forgot about, she comes back in.
She pops up halfway through the movie, and we're like,
oh yeah,
session. Yeah, and she's in it.
Right, and then she meets up with Michonne later on.
Right.
And then they have another therapy session.
A lot of therapy sessions going on in this movie. And then there's gaps in between the therapy sessions with just lighthearted moments of characters joking around.
Oh, it's funny.
No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And then right back to the therapy sessions.
Gotta have that Guardians of the Galaxy Marvel.
Correct. You can't move forward without that. So you get all this tension with the sea people, Namor, and then Wakanda, and then they clash, and that's basically the whole shebang.
Yeah. The king is dead, or king is dead.
The king is dead. Who's going to take up the mantle of Black Panther? Is it going to be his mother? Is it going to be his sister? But it's clear from the beginning that they're grooming the sister into that role because she basically has to step into the spotlight of this franchise now. And
of everyone to pick, they pick her.
She's the annoying little sister in the first one. This one, she's grown up now, kind of. She's older, not fully grown up. What is she, like 21?
Sure.
And it doesn't feel like she's ready to step into this role. But what choice do they have? They don't want to recast. She's the next logical choice. They have to put her into this role.
Yeah. The best way to describe the movie is it's aimless.
Yeah. Because I felt like I should have cared more about his character dying. But the way they just got rid of him in the beginning, off camera, like, obviously the actor is gone.
Yeah.
But they could have still, like, had the character in the Black Panther suit in some scenario where he was, like, saving Wakanda or just doing something.
If he's going to die, if they're going to get rid of him, then there needed to be a better exit for him.
Right.
What
it
they
was
came
very
up with was
unceremonious how they just kind of brushed him
The movie
out
literally
of the story.
starts with, like, shot one. We hear that he's sick and he's dying, and, like, there's nothing that they can do. And it's like, what happened? When did this happen?
No explanation.
No explanation. There's none.
No,
really.
they don't give one.
Yeah.
He literally just gets sick.
Yeah.
The Rona.
Oh, you're right.
No heart-shaped herb is going to save him from the Rona.
They should have wore those masks that that Namor's people were wearing.
Yeah, probably protect him.
He would have been fine.
So
socially distanced.
He dies of the Rona.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And he's just gone. And then they have this touching parade.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Because you get the send off of the character. You just don't understand why he's being sent off.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's just gone now. And that's a really awkward position to start a film because you're just more confused than, like, sad. You're sad because you know what happened outside of the film universe.
Yeah.
You have to kind of separate that. Like, you're watching a story now. Like you said earlier, this character's bigger than any one actor. So I don't want to be thinking about the death of Chadwick Boseman while I'm watching this film.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to because that's how they built it.
Well, and I feel like they acknowledged that going into it. They knew that you're going to be thinking about it as an audience member going into it.
There's no way around it, and that's the shitty part.
And so in terms of them filming basically like a cinematic tribute to the guy, it was great. It was really well done. It was tastefully handled. The problem is just everything that led up to that, just the way he goes in general. You know, you kind of wish that he kind of had like some sort of heroic end, or it could have started with like a James Bond-esque action sequence that was separate from the story from the film, and then he gets killed in combat or he gets killed in battle.
Yeah, and it would be shocking. You get to see it, and you get to see whatever sacrifice he gets to make, and that could have been a little more interesting than what they did with it. Instead, they chose the quiet way.
Yeah.
Where you get to see the pain on Shuri's face, the mother's face, and like the protector is dead.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like she comes in, the protector is dead, and it's like, okay, how?
Now I know that it must have been a conversation how they were gonna kill him off essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it was difficult, and they could have had those conversations about, we're in the situation, do we have like an intro where we have like a CGI rendered version of him, and maybe they just felt like it was, again, not in good taste.
Disrespectful.
To do
like
that.
I personally, if they had put him in there, like some CGI version of him, that would have felt pretty weird. You could have given the character a good send-off still. Even if you did that, you could do it tastefully.
See, I understand them doing, like, feeling like that. I get it. But it's so weird how Hollywood decides when it's okay to do that and when it's not okay to do that. Like Ghostbusters, the newest one, Harold Ramis at the end.
Yeah, he's dead.
He's
but
dead.
They bring
That's
him in
okay.
as a ghost, right? And like, okay, so what is it? Is it that the wound is still too fresh? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. They're fast and loose with their rules about this, but
like,
it could have been done tastefully.
What you're saying, yes, it could have been. It could have been done tastefully.
Yeah.
Ultimately, again, unfortunate situation, but shit, man, the movie needed Black Panther, like the actual Black Panther. It needed T'Challa.
His presence, the lack of his presence. Every scene, you feel it.
Yeah.
You just feel like he's not here.
Yeah.
And he needs to be here. And they bring in the other characters, and those characters are good, but they don't carry the film. My favorite character in the movie was Angela Bassett, his mother.
She's always great.
But she's really good in the movie, and you get her pain. She has to kind of step up. She's the queen. There's no king anymore. She kind of has to be strong for everyone around her. And she's great. She's really good. Shuri, the daughter, is kind of like, she's like still grieving after a year, and the mom's like, no, you gotta like burn those ceremonial robes, and she refuses to do it. And then she's grieving over the death of her brother, and she just won't get over it. Not like she has to get over it, but
Right.
it's been a year.
That ends up being her central arc for the movie.
It ends up being her arc, and she kind of gets thrust into a similar arc that her brother had in Civil War. As the story unfolds, she's grieving, but then when Namor attacks Wakanda and we lose the queen, now she is essentially living out the storyline that her brother had in Civil War.
Yes.
When he lost his father, and now he's just hell-bent on vengeance and revenge. That's all he can see, and that's all she can see, and she just wants to kill this guy.
Yes.
And it drives her to do stupid things.
Yeah, well, in a 25-minute span, it drives her to do stupid things. And yeah, it ends up being the exact same motivation that T'Challa had in Civil War. And at the end, when she has the choice to kill Namor, she decides not to, just like Black Panther decided not to kill Zemo. It's the same thing.
Right, except it felt a little more natural in Civil War.
Yeah, well, the movie was that movie was about that character pitting them all against each other.
Yes.
And then he took the high road at the end, knowing that this isn't the right way to go. This is what he wants.
Right,
I'm not going to give that to him.
He has that whole great arc in that film.
Yeah.
And he's a side character.
Yeah.
And in this, Shuri steps in as pretty much the main character of the film, and she goes through that arc, but it's the exact same arc.
It is.
It's exactly the same.
And it was just lame.
But it's like...
I get what they were going for, and if they hadn't done that already, then it would have been fine. But they already had.
But you've already done it.
Come up with some new shit.
I get you're trying to parallel her journey to become Black Panther, just like T'Challa did, and I get it, but it's like, give her her own unique arc.
Yeah.
Don't copy what was already done.
Yeah, that almost it seems like it's like a rite of passage to become a Black Panther.
Right.
Now.
You have to lose a parent.
Yeah.
And you have to decide whether or not you want to kill the person who killed your parent. And if you let them live, you're worthy of becoming Black Panther.
See, Black Panther, the first one, that movie is like a 6.5 at best.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
That's a 10.
Well,
it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
It's a perfect film.
I'm saying it. That movie is just it's okay.
The best Black Panther movie is still Civil War.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like Chadwick is at his best in Civil War. The character is at his best.
He has a great arc.
The character is
you learn
at his
about
best
him, and you learn
in Civil War.
Yes.
100%. Now he's okay in the first Black Panther movie. The character. I mean, Chadwick's great.
Yeah.
But the character itself, he sort of takes a back seat in his own movie. You think he's dead and he's kind of gone for a big chunk of the movie. That being said, this one comes out and you really, even though he took a back seat, you're really feeling his absence in this one.
Yeah.
And so that's a testament to the character. That's a testament to the performance.
Yes.
And that's undeniable. He was great as the character, and it's very unfortunate that he died.
Yeah.
But
and all these secondary characters that fill in around him, they really have to stand on their own now, and some do better than others.
Yeah.
Like Angela Bassett, she's great. Shuri,
no,
not so much. Okoye, Michonne.
Yeah.
I thought she was fantastic in this.
Yeah, she's great. That scene where she gets banished.
Yes,
she
gets
really
stripped
well.
of her general title, and she breaks down. That was good. That was a good moment, and it was her and Bassett. It
was also a good feminine moment.
Yes.
How
a character
female,
can fail.
Yeah.
And then come back and then
also
succeed.
how a female would act, in that she's still strong, she's still stern, and she's taking it, but that's how a female would take it.
Right.
She starts crying, and it's she starts crying. But that's what would happen.
Yeah.
And she does a great job.
She does. She's one of the best performances of the film.
Yeah.
I liked her character a lot in this one. When they go to America to meet up with the colonizer, who gets sidelined so hard in this movie.
I mean, he's sidelined in the first one.
Yeah, but at
holy
least he
shit.
plays a role.
Yeah, man.
In this one, he's just kind of like dicking around.
Yeah, they give him some tokenism stuff to do in the first one
Yeah.
at least. But this one, he's just
there for like 3 scenes. And then like he gets involved, like, oh, you crazy people, okay, what do you need? And they're like, where is the scientist? And it's like becomes this thing, the scientist. They're just searching for this one scientist, which brings the introduction of Riri.
it brings the introduction
The introduction of
to
Riri.
our favorite new character.
Ironheart. Although she's not Ironheart yet in this.
Well, she did that little metal thing at the end where she carved out the heart. Remember that? When she's building the suit?
No.
That shitty Power Ranger suit that she makes at the end?
Oh yeah.
You don't remember that?
Yeah, that suit's better than what she has in the beginning, but you know, even Tony had a pretty janky suit.
Her Mark 1 is better than Tony's Mark 1 still because she's smarter than Tony Stark.
Probably. They go to America to find the scientist because Namor just wants this scientist dead because she was the one that designed the machine that can locate the vibranium under the water.
And she's the only one that holds the patent in her
I
head.
guess she's the only one that has the blueprints, even though there's a whole scene dedicated to her saying, I didn't have anything to do with building that. I gave that design to my professor who then like gave it to the Department of Defense or whoever.
So there's a
So
whole chain now
there's a
of
whole
people
chain now
who
of people
know.
who have the blueprints to
Yeah.
build this thing. So she's really irrelevant in this whole plot. Like they don't need her. They could just go to whoever built it and build another one.
Not a great plan.
They need her though because she's smart.
She's
And-
very smart.
Yeah.
We need another Shuri in the movie.
Yes.
That scene where they confront her in her dorm room at
Oh my
MIT.
God.
She okay, her aside, I'm still on Okoye when Okoye comes like walking out of the shadows and she's like, oh, let me like do something fucked up to her. And like I was like, okay, I like her a lot. Okoye. I like her character. She was actually fun. But that was like at the point where she's kind of like joking around, Shuri's kind of like joking around a little bit, and it's like, oh, I guess we're done with the grief. Oh no, we're back to the grief a little bit.
Fucking hated that scene, dude. That scene was so cringe. Oh my God.
they bring Riri in, and then from that point they go into like that horrible chase scene, and then Shuri gets kidnapped, and then we get the full backstory of Namor.
Namor.
Yes, they just rewrite his entire backstory from the comics because who cares? It's funny what they choose to change and what they choose to honor. Like, they change his entire backstory to give him a more diverse backstory. But then they go ahead and they keep the stupid little wings on his feet
Yeah,
that he
and-
flies around with, which just look asinine.
In all these movies, they'll do like little changes to costumes and like, oh, the character can fly, but that's weird in the comic books. So we have to give them like a practical reason as to why they can do it so it doesn't look as goofy
Right.
in a movie. But in this one, no, they just...
Nope, he's
oh,
got
we're
little butterfly
we're gonna
wings
have little,
on his ankles.
We're gonna have little dove wings.
Okay.
Make him fly. It looked so fucking
Right,
weird.
that's what they choose to keep.
And I get that it's like, I mean, that's great that it's comic accurate. That's cool.
Sure, but not everything in the comics is
Well, but
screen ready.
Let's take a dump on his whole origin story. We'll change that, but we'll keep the goofy looking fucking feather feet.
Right.
So,
He was a weak villain.
oh my God,
His motives are not the strongest.
they're fairly questionable.
They're fairly questionable. I get what he wants to do, but at the same time, like, he's really holding Wakanda accountable for a lot of shit that they have nothing to do with. Namor is like, now I have to strike back against them, and then he goes and attacks Wakanda, and in the process kills the Queen, Angela Bassett. It feels overshadowed by the fact that we have this whole Black Panther death. So her death kind of just gets thrown in there, and then it becomes this driving motivation for Shuri to just be vengeful and want to kill. And then what does she do? She launches a frontal assault on them, and it's like, it's ridiculous. But before that happens, she basically becomes the new Black Panther. I thought the suit looked pretty cool, like the changes they made. She looked like a pencil though.
Yeah, she's a twig.
She's a twig.
The best part was when he impales her at the end.
And she's just like,
She's fine.
The size of her waist, that rod that went through her would have taken out like 3 major organs.
Absolutely.
And she just like, nope, still gonna fight.
She gets off of it, and then it's like nothing. It's like she stubbed her toe.
She's fine. And then she's about to kill him, and he's like, do it. She's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. It's better than you. And he's like, respect.
Right.
And then they're
friends.
They're friends.
They come riding up together on that ship at the end.
Yeah,
Together.
and he calls off the troops like, no, stop fighting. We made up, so we're good.
I can almost hear the kid from the Matrix Revolutions going, the war's over!
The war's over!
The war is over!
And that's it. It's just like, okay, we're good. Like, who cares that he like murdered 100 people in this movie? Just like innocent people too. Like just like his goons just killing people left and right, regardless of like who they are. Just in the way, just murder them.
You know, 10 years from now, once superhero fatigue sets in, everyone says it's going to set in, but it hasn't. But when it does, and then we reflect back on Marvel Cinematic Universe and its sequels, and then we look back at the Black Panther movies in particular. At that point, there'll be 2 or 3 more sequels after this one. This one's just going to be remembered as the one, oh yeah, it's the one where Chadwick died, and it's like that filler sequel.
Yeah.
And that's all it was there for. It's just, oh, well, we haven't made a Black Panther movie in 4 years. We can make one.
I would have been really curious to see what story they originally wanted to tell by just recasting the role.
Yeah.
And moving forward.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it like pretend nothing happened. Like you said, you acknowledge it outside of the film. You have a little opening sequence. I liked what they did. The quiet Marvel logo comes up with
only
just
Chadwick,
all shots
Black Panther
of Chadwick.
stuff. Yeah.
That was perfect. I thought it was a great intro. And then you move on and you go back to this fantasy world we're in and you tell your story.
Right.
It's a shame, but you got to move past. You can't like make the whole movie about him now.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end when she's sitting on the beach and she's finally at the point in her life where she's gonna, she can let him go, burn the shroud. And that was the first time in the film where I actually felt like, oh man, he's gone, because she actually sits there and she has flashbacks and you see him for the first time.
And that was the best moment of filmmaking in the whole movie.
That was the best moment in the entire film.
You get this really good montage of him and then her like on the beach
just thinking about him.
There's no score, there's no music. It's just cutting to what she's thinking about.
Yep.
All you hear is the tide in the background, and it shows the images of Chadwick as Black Panther. Really, really well done. And like you said, that's the first time I actually felt it.
Yeah.
Her performance is great. The way it was cut was great. The way it was executed.
Finally seeing him, it was like, oh, this is what I was missing up to this point.
Yeah.
And you don't get it until the very end.
Yeah. Well, you know what it kind of reminds me of, and I know this is what happened with Black Panther is a more extreme example of what I'm about to bring up, but it sort of reminded me of The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Heath Ledger dies.
Yeah.
And then imagine for a moment if Heath Ledger had never died, Dark Knight Rises would have been a very different movie.
Yes, he probably would have made an appearance.
He would have been in it.
Yeah.
Instead of them awkwardly not even acknowledging the Joker at all. They don't say anything about him.
Yeah.
And that movie is so weird for doing that.
Yeah.
But you wonder if he hadn't passed,
what would it have been?
What would they have done? And there's another example of where they were probably in the situation where what he did with the character was super iconic. Do you recast, or do you just awkwardly not mention him in the next one?
See, but eventually they do. They did. Like, there are new Jokers now because there are new Batman. Just like the Batman's the perfect example. Now. Like, Marvel is a little different in the sense because they've built out this whole universe and they're trying to stay as consistent as they can across all these films.
As good as Chadwick was at playing Black Panther, really what you're missing is Black Panther being in the movie.
Yes.
And it needed Black Panther, and we didn't get that.
Yeah.
I don't think that they came out of it as good as they could have come out of it.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. But I do sympathize, and that does suck.
Yeah. All right. Well, we still have to rate the film.
Well,
where do you fall?
I know it's really not fair to bring up the first one, but I thought the first one was just like mediocre at best. That movie is one of the most overrated movies ever made. Because at its core, it's just like a 6.5 at best. It's not terrible, but it's not great at all.
Good villain.
Yeah. And they actually made an SJW a villain, which was interesting and cool. And Michael B. Jordan's great. He makes everything great. I don't know. I think I would give Wakanda Forever a 5.5.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Because we gave Black Adam a 6. I gave it a 6.5. You gave it a 6. And I was trying to compare when I saw both of those movies. Which one would I rather watch? Which, from an entertainment standpoint?
I was thinking the same thing.
And one of them was more fun
Yeah.
than the other one. The other one was more, like 2.5 hours of grief.
It's okay to for the characters to be grieving, and it's okay to have that aspect in the movie, but you can't make the whole thing a therapy session.
Right. That's what I was trying to say. Like, they spent too much time dealing with the grief angle. And for me, that kind of that brought it down a little bit. They could have moved past it. They could have honored him. They could have moved on, told a better story. So I'm hovering around the 5.5.
Well, there are other reasons why I give it a 5.5.
Well,
and that because there's some bullshit in the movie.
Sure, there's some bullshit, but don't forget we got the other scale for that.
Yes, and so I guess this is the perfect opportunity to start talking about said bullshit that's in the movie.
Please do.
All the woke horse shit that was injected in this movie. Obviously, most movies it's like a left-wing industry, and so most movies, even movies that I love from the past, have left-wing messaging in them.
Sure.
Fine, but the problem with one of the problems that today's movies suffer from is that it's just, first of all, the problems nowadays are stupid and pointless, and all the things that modern leftists complain about, that is just brought to the forefront. Back in the day, whatever the lefties were bitching about, at least there was an effort to conceal it, and there was an effort to...
Right, it was subtle.
There was an effort to make it part of the story, so if you were on the other side of things, you would at least be able to look at their point of view.
Right.
They don't care about that now. Now it's just...
No, there's only one point of view.
There's just one point of view, and if it's anything else, then you're evil.
Right.
You're a piece of shit, you're racist, whatever.
Right.
This movie does not do anything subtly.
No.
It's just got some annoying, frustrating messaging in it.
Like what?
Okay, so...
I know you got a list going here.
All right, in the very beginning of the movie, when they had their little UN thing... UN. The most useless... Anyways, there's that line where she's like, you don't want to give us the vibranium because of what we might potentially use it for. And then Angela Bassett, who's great, and she says this line great, but it's a bullshit line. She was like, I'm not going to trade vibranium with you, not because of the potential danger that vibranium might bring, from a weapons standpoint, but she says, I'm not going to give it to you because of the dangerous potential of you. And then it cuts to all the white people, all the white people in the room. And then at the UN, when they bring in all those dudes that they captured.
Yeah.
All the
white mercs.
The white mercs. It was
the French white mercs.
They basically just took all the mercs from Black Adam, lined them up.
Yeah, they just brought them into this movie now. They were shooting across at another soundstage, and then they were wrapped over there. So then they walked them across the studio lot.
You guys have any white imperialist-looking guys that are wearing all military garb?
They walked them into the Black Panther soundstage, and they're like, "Oh, great, perfect. Just go kneel over there in front of Angela Bassett."
And so then they have them kneel, all the white men kneeling in front of all of them.
You really hated that scene.
Oh, fuck that scene.
Yeah.
Because you know that they made that scene so all the SJWs watching it would go, "That's right.
That's right.
Look at that.
That's right. Wakanda's a perfect nation."
You had a running theme of the movie was fucking CNN being on in the background.
In every scene.
As if anyone takes them
Anderson.
As if anyone takes them seriously at this point. Can you imagine what would happen if they actually had a clip from Fox News on there? If Tucker Carlson was reporting on this?
Fucking heads would explode. People screaming outside the theater that they wanted their money back.
Yeah.
Triggered.
That'd have been hilarious.
Because Tucker appeared on their screen.
That would have been hilarious.
Okay. What else you got?
I'm just saying, let's have it fair and balanced, Show CNN in one. You can show it. Have them in there.
Have Cooper on one screen over here, and then in the next scene you got Tucker over here.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced.
What else?
Then we haven't really talked about Riri Williams yet because she's so fucking useless in the movie.
Well, she's pointless.
Oh my God, but she's so... First of all, her character is written like shit. She's super annoying, pointless. But the chick that plays her is terrible. I mean,
she's the scientist.
She had that SJW Mary Sue air of superiority that they all these Mary Sue characters have.
They all have it.
Yeah, it's just more of that shit.
Right, nothing's a challenge. I just don't understand her importance. Like, if she died, they could still build another machine. They have the blueprint. She literally gave them to her professor, who then gave them to the government. Like, she's pointless.
Her importance is that she's 15 years old or whatever.
Right,
young.
she's better than Tony
She's
Stark.
black and she's female.
Sure.
That's why she's important.
And once she's there with Shuri, and then like you get these two characters side by side now, and it's like, okay, so now we got two super geniuses here. What, they're both going to build super genius things? Like,
at least in the first Avengers,
like,
when they had Tony Stark and they had Bruce Banner together, what made that interesting is their personalities were different.
they're entirely different characters,
Yes.
like personality-wise. Like,
But they're both brilliant. But it's like, how do
they're
these two
brilliant in
brilliant
different
guys?
ways.
Yes.
How are they going to work together?
Yes.
They have different
Right.
specialties.
And the way they bond is cool because of how different they are.
Right.
They're basically Shuri and Riri.
They're too similar.
They're the same fucking
They're too
person,
similar,
except for
like-
one's from America.
Right. Bringing her in didn't really add anything. You could have had that whole movie without her, and it would have been 20 minutes shorter.
What it is we've had a few movies without Iron Man, and we need Iron Man back.
We need Iron Man back.
And so now
now we're gonna get Iron
now
Heart.
in the MCU, they have a female equivalent of every single male character.
Right. And they're all better than their male counterparts.
Yeah.
That's the direction they went with that. Instead of them like coming up and being flawed and growing and learning and being better than the male counterparts in some areas, but not all areas. Nope, they're just better in all regards. So
Yeah.
that's just where we're headed now.
Tony Stark was a genius at her age as well, but you didn't see him making Iron Man suits and shit when he was 15 years old.
No, he was
Because he wasn't as smart as she is.
right. He was fighting with his parents.
Oh, remember that bullshit line that Michonne said at the end? A colonizer in chains. Now I've seen everything.
Yeah, he's never colonized anybody.
So,
How many rainbows?
dude, that being said, all the things that we're naming, it could have gone farther than it did.
Oh, sure.
You know? It wasn't as bad as it could have been.
When it popped up, it was annoying and
Yes.
it was very apparent.
Yes.
But it didn't pop up that often.
No.
That I was just like, oh, another scene like that, another one.
Right.
So.
And it wasn't there to like narratively push the story. There were just like
no,
little,
it was just there
it was
because
just
they
in
were
there.
like, oh, here's a good opportunity to insert some bullshit.
Yes.
So they did.
Right.
Fine.
So I don't know. Rainbow scale, I'll give this a 3.5.
Ooh, okay. I'd probably give it a 3.
I was teetering
this is
between
the highest you've gone on the
I
scale
was
so far.
teetering between the 3 and the 3.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like in subsequent viewings, even though I'll probably never watch this again, if I were to watch it again, I'd probably notice more shit.
Right. I'm sure it'll get nominated for Best Picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt about
I'd be
it.
shocked if it didn't. That's life, and we got what we got. So, all right. Till next time.